Hi and welcome to this short presentation about risky play. This is part of a series of briefing sessions the team has put together to support providers in these times. This will be presented today by myself, Joanne Fay and Ellie McMillan, and we are part of the Quality Improvement and Training team. This is just an overview, a taster really, and when looking at risky play within your provision, please ensure that you take a whole team approach and that everybody knows what their role is within this. Risky play supports children in testing their limits and exploring their boundaries. Early years settings can promote and extend activities to provide children with the opportunity to push boundaries in a safe and managed environment. Children need to be kept safe from potential harm and hazards at all times, but they also need to explore and take risks, especially important at this time when some children may have been confined indoors for much of the time. In the next slide, we'll just have a look at what we're going to cover in this session. So today in this session, we're going to look at the definition of risky play. Why do children need those opportunities for risky play? The benefits and the impact. And what is risky play? How to implement this in your setting, what it could look like. Look at the 6 main areas that have been identified. How to assess the risk. How to ensure that all children can access risky play. Are parents on board? And some things for you to think about. So what is risky play? Risky play for children is thrilling and exciting play where children engage in risk without certainty, and it has been proven to have immense benefits. It involves children experimenting and pushing themselves to figure out what will happen without knowing the exact outcome. Human beings are hardwired to take risks from birth. Babies take their first independent breaths. They decide to try crawling and walking and then running. They try new foods. They see a tree and they just want to climb it. Sadly, an increasingly risk-averse society is making physical, active, playful risk-taking ever more difficult for children to practice. Since play is the key way in which children learn skills and abilities they need for life, we do them no favours by preventing them from pushing the boundaries of their physicality. Over the past 60 years, we have witnessed in our culture a continuous, gradual, but ultimately dramatic decline in children's opportunities to play freely, without adult control, and especially in their opportunities to play in risky ways. Over the same 60 years, we have also witnessed a continuous, gradual, but ultimately dramatic increase in all sorts of childhood mental disorders, especially emotional disorders. Children are designed by nature to teach themselves emotional resilience by playing in risky, emotion-inducing ways. In the long run, we endanger them far more by preventing such play than by allowing it, and we deprive them of fun. In a recent survey of over 1,000 parents in the UK, 43% believe that children under the age of 14 shouldn't be allowed outside unsupervised, and half of those believe they shouldn't be allowed such freedom until at least 16 years of age. Adventures that were normal for 6-year-olds when I was young in the 60s are now not allowed even for many teenagers. Early years experts talk about the benefits of risky play. They tell us that children will never be able to manage risk in later life if they're not exposed to risky play opportunities, to problem solve and to self-assess risks during the early years. For example, the risk of falling off a piece of play equipment is quite high, especially if children have no experience of climbing and balancing because they've been protected by adults who are concerned about their safety. However, if an adult supervises and supports them and provides them with age-appropriate safe play rules, and there are mats in case of falls and equipment is risk assessed to ensure it's safe and suitable for the age of the children using it, then the children will learn to climb and balance and will be safe in similar play situations when they're outside of the settings, such as if they visit a new park. Even the health and safety executives say the goal is not to eliminate risk, but to weigh up the risks and benefits. No child will ever learn about risk if they are wrapped in cotton wool. In the next slide, we'll have a look more in depth at why risky play is important. So why is risky play so important in early childhood? Risky play can help develop a child's self-confidence. that proud moment as they complete a difficult task for the first time, such as climbing a tree or balancing on a beam. Even as adults, we still feel a sense of pride when we achieve a goal we've set ourselves. It is the same for our children. If they are never given the opportunity to challenge themselves, then they will never feel that sense of pride, which inevitably leads to a building in self-confidence. When we let children take risks, we show them that they are capable of succeeding if they try and try and try again, developing perseverance in their character. Resilience builds as children keep on trying, even if the task is really difficult. Resilience is the rubber ball factor, the ability to bounce back in the event of adversity. Put simply, resilience is the ability to cope with and rise to the inevitable challenges, problems and setbacks you meet in the course of your life and come back stronger from them. You can see why this is so important to build in our children. Executive functioning abilities. This is all about learning to follow instructions, staying focused on the task and using self-control. For example, if things don't go according to plan, and of course, problem solving. Risk management skills. Children thinking about the risk before starting a task, developing a sense of how far they are able to go. Children are highly motivated to play in risky ways, but they are also very good at knowing their own capabilities and avoiding risks they are not ready to take, either physically or emotionally. Our children know far better than we do what they are ready for, but to learn this, they must be given the opportunity to be in charge of their own play. Research shows that engaging in risky play can actually reduce the risk of injury as children learn what their own limitations are. What better place to learn about limitations than in an early years setting where practitioners have already removed any risks not readily identifiable to a young child? You do have to be careful because when adults pressure or even encourage children to take risks they aren't ready for, the result may be trauma, not thrill. There are big differences among children, even among those who are similar in age, size and strength. What is thrilling for one is traumatic for another. You may end up putting a child off risky play altogether by asking too much of them too soon. This is where experienced, well-trained practitioners know when to step back and when to intervene in children's play. In the next slide, we will look at the benefits and impact of risky play. So what are the benefits and impact of risky play for children? Physically, children need time to practice new skills and develop their bodies. Taking physical risks like climbing trees and balancing on logs can support children to develop both their fine and gross motor skills. Encourage children to climb a little higher, run a little faster or jump a little further. Children develop strength in their upper bodies and limbs by climbing, using tools, running, riding bikes and other such activities. They improve balance by walking across logs and rocks and stepping stones, and they develop coordination by using tools again and building with objects or even holding food on a stick into a fire. Pulling on ropes and lifting heavy objects can help build strength in their hands, and this will support the child when it comes to writing in the future. Emotionally, feeling out of control or overcoming fear, risky play is a great way of generating a positive inner voice in children's minds. There should be a can-do attitude. A child should always come away with a feeling of accomplishment. Mentally, learning how to get out of trouble, learning your own boundaries and that of the environment around you, learning that if you fail, you can have another go and it's not the end of the world, building resilience as mentioned in the previous slide. If you experience risk in fun, play environments, then you have a much higher chance of developing a normal attitude to risk. It is not something that you seek out continually. It is just a part of life that sometimes crops up and needs to be reacted to. Researchers have suggested that a childhood without a good level of risky play can have the opposite effect. If you don't get enough, you could go one of two ways. Either become risk averse, you simply don't like risk and you don't want to get involved, it all seems far too stressful and scary, or you become a kind of adrenaline junkie. You haven't quite normalised the experience of risk and it becomes a kind of be all and end all. Anything involving high intensity, adrenaline fueled activity becomes a central focus of your life. Again, social interaction. Risky play is a really social experience. Most children engage in risky play as a joint venture with others. There's always that element of daring that's heightened when in a group, and no daredevil would probably attempt what they do if there was no one there to see it. Children encourage each other to go down slopes on bikes and scooters. They try rope swings and slides together. They watch what others do. And if it goes well, they're given confidence to have a go themselves. In the next slide, Ellie will share what risky play should look like within your provision.
Enthusiast adults are key in supporting risky play. Many early years practitioners are anxious and worried about children taking risks and fear the repercussions of a child having an accident, and therefore err on the side of caution and remove as much risk as possible from children's play. Children need to learn their own limitations. They need to be exposed to different materials during supervised play, put in a range of different places and scenarios, and allowed to try to do things independently if they are to become competent and confident to manage their own safety. It's difficult to resist the urge to help a child when they're struggling, but by interfering, you're stopping a potentially valuable learning experience. Falling, failing and hurting yourself a little bit is all part of the process of managing your body and understanding risk. Getting your intervention right as a practitioner or leader is the key to getting risky play in the early years right. Often problems with risky play in the early years come when an activity is rushed, not because the activity is unsafe. You'll need to think about flexibility within your routine when you're doing risky play, as moving a child on when they're close to a result or when they're engrossed in something risky can be damaging to their confidence and can lead to behavioural problems. Within settings, there's usually a mixed age range of children using the same outdoor area. Outdoor areas are potentially where most of the challenging and risky play experiences will take place. Therefore, careful consideration should be given to the setup of the area to ensure that it supports all children's ages and abilities. Babies and toddlers should be located in an area where they can crawl and explore away from older children who are riding bikes or kicking balls. Areas for young children should include various textures, hills and slopes for them to explore. Where possible, outdoor space that is uncultivated, woodland areas for children to hide, explore and climb in is ideal. Defining areas with boundaries is a good idea, for instance using bushes, tyres or logs to create separate areas for ball games, bike riding and rough and tumble play. And an area for the less mobile children. If practitioners are concerned that young children could be injured, for instance by moving swings, then a visible barrier around the swing area could help to enclose it. This means that the older children engaging in the risky play activity of swinging high or fast on a swing can do so, reducing the risk of injury to the other children. You'll also need to consider appropriate clothing for any outdoor play and risky play that's challenging for children. We've all heard the saying, no such thing as bad weather, just unsuitable clothing. Clothing can be a barrier to accessing outdoors, so ensure children and staff have appropriate clothing such as waterproofs, wellies and warm clothing to maximise full use of the outdoors all year round. Have lots of spare weatherproof clothing for those children who haven't been dressed for the weather. This can be used as part of an outdoor dressing up box. Loose parts link well with risky play activities. Loose parts are materials and resources that have no pre-planned use. They can be natural or synthetic. They can be moved, combined with other resources, lined up, deconstructed and constructed again. Children will construct for hours with loose parts such as planks of wood, logs, tyres, pallets and guttering. Most parents or practitioners will confirm the age-old cliché of the cardboard box attracting more attention than what is inside. What each of these items has in common is a lack of restriction. With no prescribed method of play, items can be used entirely at the discretion of the child. Children can explore, create and imagine in all the senses and assign their own purpose and meaning to the objects. Researchers have identified that there are 6 types of risky play. These include play at great heights, so balancing, hanging, climbing, etc. So children climb trees and other structures to scary heights from which they can gain a bird's eye view of the world and the thrilling feeling of I did it. Children feel a great sense of achievement from climbing. Play at high speed, so running, biking, sliding, children swinging on ropes or playground swings, skates or scooters and bikes, and other devices fast enough to produce the thrill of almost but not quite losing control. Play with dangerous tools, so sawing, cutting, hammering. So this can include woodwork tools as well, such as saws, spanners, screwdrivers, hammers, etc. There is of course great satisfaction in being trusted to handle such tools, but also the thrill in controlling them. Dangerous elements, so water, fire, etc. Fire pits have become really popular within settings, particularly for those who follow a forest school approach. This is thrilling and exciting for children as they are rarely exposed to an open fire. Rough and tumble play, so wrestling and play fighting. Children everywhere chase one another around and fight playfully, and they typically prefer being in the most vulnerable position, therefore the one being chased, as this position involves the most risk of being captured and requires the most skill to overcome. This does, however, require experienced practitioners that understand the difference between rough and tumble play and fighting. And also play where there is a chance of getting lost or disappearing. Little children play hide and seek and enjoy hiding in dens and making dens, but also it's the thrill of temporary scary separation from their companions, and older ones venture off on their own away from adults into territories that to them are new and filled with imagined dangers, including the danger of getting lost. Again, this can include hiding in dens. Careful risk assessment must be carried out when implementing or providing children with any of the experiences discussed above. These activities and experiences should be carried out in a controlled environment with robust risk assessments, which include clear explanation and rules in place for children in an age-appropriate way, and often require 1 adult to 1 child ratio. This again is discussed in a bit more detail in the next slide. Risk-taking is good for children. Taking risks is exciting and children want and need to take risks. Our role as adults is to make sure we enable this without placing them in actual danger. It's essential to evaluate the hazards honestly, not just focusing on the worst case scenario, but also considering the likelihood of serious injury and what children will gain by participating in the activity. Things to consider when assessing possible risks and challenges for children in your setting should include focusing on the positive aspects of risky outdoor play, the physical skills children can develop and practice, including strength and coordination, special awareness and agility, and some of the emotions they may feel, such as excitement, fear, hesitation, pleasure, and mastery, as well as the connection with natural materials and the real world around them. Evaluate the hazards honestly. Is this activity genuinely risky? How likely is it that a child will get hurt? And how serious could the injury be? If potential injuries are minor or unlikely, then the benefits will probably outweigh the risks. Build confidence by using positive language. If your language is fearful, don't go there, don't do that, come down, it's too high, that's dangerous. Children will develop anxiety, not confidence. Say instead, where do you think your foot can go next? And ask them to talk you through their decision making. Apply common sense. Risky outdoor play has always been an integral part of childhood. When creating and maintaining a safe environment, practitioners must pay heed to their legal duties, but also should take into account those risks that are acceptable too. The risk of falling off larger pieces of play equipment is quite high. However, the risk of harm is minimised by ensuring that there is adequate supervision, correct positioning of the equipment, so away from windows or walls, crash mats and some rules set by adults that are appropriate for the individual child's level of understanding. In order to remove all risk, the use of such equipment would be banned altogether, but the benefits of the activity happening with the risk that some children may fall includes children being able to expand their skills as they risk climbing higher, reaching further, or balancing for longer. Children will also learn how to fall, how to pick themselves up and start over again. Equally importantly, they will begin to understand the consequence of taking risks beyond their current ability. Children need to learn how to keep themselves safe in a variety of different situations, and it is important that we work closely with them to enable them to manage their own risk. Managing risk is part of what adults have to do daily, and if children aren't taught the skills from an early age, they will not be self-reliant when they are older. Some children with disabilities will have to have many things done for them in life because it is quicker, safer, and easier for those people taking care of their needs. For them, having the opportunity to take risks is even more vital, as they may not always have the same freedom of choice given to their non-disabled peers. The child with mobility problems will probably have to wait to be asked and then taken to the climbing frame, but once there will enjoy the challenge of getting to the first or second level. It is crucial that individual risk assessments are undertaken for children with SEND to ensure children are provided with an environment that meets their needs. This will identify what children can do independently and where they need support. Risky play should be available for all children regardless of their age, ability or gender. Practitioners should support and encourage children who are anxious by using positive language when accidents occur and modifying activities to suit a variety of abilities, as this ensures that all children can be involved in risky play to some extent. What one child considers risky might not seem so risky for another child. Practitioners must be aware of this and allow children to learn what they themselves are capable of and not feel pushed into doing something they are not sure of. The more children are free to engage in risky play, the better they will be at managing risks, judging what they are capable of and keeping themselves safe. The role of the practitioner is to provide a challenging and risky learning environment that will support all children as they become more motivated, curious, able and adventurous. It is important that staff raise awareness about risky play for parents. Communication between staff and parents is the key to promoting the benefits of risky activities. Practitioners should explain how their children are learning and developing through the activities they are involved in. For instance, discussing how well a child can balance now compared to a few weeks ago, or how strong the child's legs are becoming because of the climbing activities. This will reassure parents that their children are developing and learning in an environment that is exciting and challenging, but where risk is managed effectively. If the staff are confident about the risky play policy within their setting, it will help ease any parental anxiety. Risky play is an invaluable part of childhood. Research shows that not only does it increase children's physical and motor skills, but also teaches them about their own limits and how to deal with risks in the future. Children's safety, however, is an ever-increasing issue that some practitioners are anxious about. This worry about children injuring themselves or others during risky play is preventing some children from having the opportunity to engage in such activities. It's important that practitioners provide children with an environment where they can engage in risky play that is as safe as necessary rather than as safe as possible. Creating a risky play policy is a good way to ensure all the staff are on the same level when it comes to allowing children to engage in risky activities. Educating staff and parents about the benefits of risky play is important, as this leads to understanding and less anxiety. Using positive language when discussing risky activities can also help parents to realise the benefits of such activities. Risk allows children to push themselves to the limits of their capabilities and allows them space to progress. It also allows children to feel in control of their actions, learning and play. They learn boundaries in a safe, secure environment where they can be supported directly or indirectly by practitioners. Everyday life is full of risks and challenges, and children need opportunities to develop the skills associated with managing risk and making informed judgments about risks from a very young age. Risky play helps to develop important life skill learnings such as building resilience and persistence.